psych, lore and insight.
Welcome to Psychlore and Insights. Join us each week as we embark on a captivating journey through the realms of history and lore. I am thrilled to introduce my brother Steve, an Irish-blooded, natural-born storyteller. His tales will draw you into the rich tapestry of our shared past, revealing the fascinating stories that shape our world.
And this is my sister Sarah, a board-certified psychiatric nurse practitioner. She'll delve into the psychological and psychiatric layers behind these tales, unraveling the mysteries of the human mind that connect us to that lore.
Get ready for an exploration like no other, where storytelling meets psych and insight. Today, our topic is the beautiful and mysterious tale of Sarah Winchester. We will explore her life, which was shrouded in mystery, and link it to the fascinating spiritualistic movement of the 19th century. We'll also explore the intricate world of obsessive compulsive disorder and talk about obsessive compulsive personality disorder as we uncover the connections between these topics and the treatment approaches available today. So we are going to have some story time with Steve. Steve, take it away.
Story time with Steve. Okay, so introduction. She had more money than most people could dream of. She had a mansion that sprawled across 6 acres in California, 160 rooms, 2,000 doors, 47 fireplaces, stairways that went nowhere, maybe to the ceiling, maybe just out a door that dropped 13 feet into the garden. She had servants, carriages, gardens. But she did not have peace. Her name was Sarah Winchester, and she was, for nearly 4 decades, she never stopped building. So as you said, today we're stepping into one of American history's most haunting, misunderstood stories. She was shaped by enormous grief, wealth, and her mind could never sit still. So before the mansion, before the money, before the madness or whatever it might have been, we don't know. Let's start before all that happened. So she was born in 1839, named Sarah Lockwood Pardee, and not like party on, dude. Pardee. So she was born in New Haven, Connecticut. Her father was a successful carriage manufacturer. He had a mill, everything. They grew up in comfort. They not extravagant or anything like that, but they were well off. They were very comfortable. She was actually, and this is around Yale University, and I'm not sure, like some accounts that I read, she actually attended Yale, but I'm not sure.
Did read that she did attend
I did
Yale.
too. And then some don't mention it, but they were right there, right next to Yale. But she was, and it makes sense because she was fluent in 4 different languages. She spoke English, French, Italian, Latin. She was an accomplished pianist. I mean, she was, that was one of her passions, was playing piano. She was very educated, witty, socially graceful. She actually became known as the Belle of New Haven at a very young age.
Really? That is really interesting. I heard an account that she was kind of isolated as a child.
Yeah, she was. She didn't make a lot of friends, and she actually didn't hang out with her like brothers and sisters much either.
So she was accomplished, intelligent, but not very social.
Correct.
Okay.
And that explains a little bit what we'll talk about later, hiding up in her home and everything.
In her
and
mansion.
Not really, yeah. And so in 1862, she was 23 years old. This is when she married William Winchester. This was a family that they knew, they like grew up with. They were neighbors, so they were very familiar with each other at a very young age. And William, he was the son of Oliver Winchester. As we all know, he founded Winchester Repeating Arms Company that invented the rifle and everything. He was very good.
Sorry, I heard that, or I read that it was an arranged marriage. Did you?
It was.
See anything about that? It was.
I heard that too.
Okay.
Because all of her sisters were already married, and she was 23, and they're like, "Oh, it's your turn." Especially, I mean, given the time, you were supposed to get married, and she's already 23, and she wasn't married yet. All her sisters were already, and it's like, oh, you can't. You have to start a family, but they loved each other. He was smitten by her, and she really loved him, especially as we'll see later. Spoiler alert. he passes on, and she is devastated by it. But they very much were in love. They moved into the Winchester family home, and then there was a lot of tragedy. There was a lot of death. Like her father-in-law died, but here I think this is when it all started, if I'm correct. It was in 1866 she got pregnant, and they named their daughter Annie. Now, Annie, she only lived for around 15 days to a month, maybe. And she had a rare disease called marasmus. Do you know what that is?
I think it's like a wasting away.
Yeah, she couldn't process any protein, and she would breastfeed her, but she couldn't process any of the proteins or anything like that. And she ended up dying. She just basically starved to death. It was malnutrition. Her body could not. They just watched her starve to death in less than a month. Some things say that it was like 15 days, and some say a little over a month, but very, very quickly. Yeah, that's very sad. And this devastated Sarah, and she couldn't go on. She went into major depression. She withdrew. She was struggling, and she never really recovered from it. And then not too long after that, the second blow came. So her husband had always had kind of like fragile health, and by the early 1880s, he declined very quickly, and he was diagnosed with pulmonary tuberculosis, which they called it. I think it's consumption. So, and it was back then it was an absolute death sentence. And so she's dealing with her daughter dying, and now she's just watching her husband fade away.
And she's so young.
And she's very young. So William died on March 7th in 1881 at 43 years old. He did, in his will, he left Sarah a lot. 50% of the stake in the Winchester Repeating Arms Company, a cash inheritance, and the income was back then about $1,000 per day. So today, that $1,000 per day back then in the 1800s. So equivalent today, it would equal about $20 million per year. That was her inheritance. $20 million a year. So
what are you going to do with that?
All of a sudden, overnight, she is probably the wealthiest woman in America, just overnight. But with all that, she's completely alone and devastated. So what do you do with that? And then on top of that, all the deaths that already had happened in her family. First of all, her daughter dying, then her father-in-law, he died in 1880, Oliver Winchester, and then 1881, a year later, her husband died. So it was never ending. And then her sister-in-law or something died, and then her parents died. I mean, it was just like, she's completely alone.
Everybody's gone.
Yeah, she's completely alone. No surviving children. Parents were gone. Husbands was gone. She was 41 at the time of all this. So this is where all this story begins. So this might be lore, but legend has that she visited a medium, because at the time, and we can talk about this now if you want, this was a time when it was after the Civil War. Seeking mediums and having seances and try to get in touch with the dead became a huge, huge thing during the Civil War, because everybody was losing family members, and this was just a huge thing that started happening. So she supposedly visited a medium, and the medium told her that the Winchester fortune was cursed because of all the people that had lost their lives due to the firearm. And the spirits of everyone killed were seeking revenge, and she must move west and build a house and never stop building, or the spirits would claim her life. And this was where the story comes of why she kept building and building. And it was a maze, and it was confusing because she was trying to trap the spirits so they'd get confused and they couldn't find her. That's part of the story.
I heard that it was either to capture them or to provide a place for them.
Either one.
Two different.
I've heard
But
both.
yeah, that spiritual movement was really interesting. And the allure of it was the existence of conscious spirits, right? Like you said, there was widespread grief then during the Civil War era. And also disease, like her husband dying of tuberculosis.
Mm-hmm.
And so they could communicate, or they thought they could communicate with spirits and relaying messages through mediums. And unlike traditional religions, it emphasized their own personal experience over like church authority. And yes, the death of her infant, the death of her husband would, prompt her likely to turn to spiritualism for comfort.
Yeah, exactly. And then
And it was
it
very
was
widespread.
very widespread and was growing even faster and faster. I mean, even before that, Mary Todd Lincoln's son, he died in 1862, and so Mary Todd Lincoln, it's very well known. This is actually documented, but she would hold seances in the White House in the Red Room
Wow.
very often, and it's well known. That's not lore.
There was a very
And
diverse following for that spiritual movement, like politicians,
Mhm.
artists. I mean,
a lot of
just
people would hold seances to try to get a hold of the dead before they would make a decision to do
even scientists.
anything.
They really believed that they could kind of hold both beliefs true, science
Mhm.
and spiritualism. Interesting. Yeah. Do you to talk about a seance?
Sure.
Which is kind of what a seance is.
Okay. I don't have any information on that, but shoot. Let's
Now's a
go.
good time since we're talking about the spiritualism. It's a seance is a gathering where people attempt to communicate with spirits. The participants would engage in rituals such as holding hands and then asking questions, often expecting signs or messages from the beyond. While later, a lot of this was debunked as illusions, believers found genuine solace in the experiences. And it made me think of a Ouija board. Have you ever
Absolutely made me think of
messed
a
with
Ouija board too.
Did
I
it?
never
Yeah.
have.
Have
I
you?
don't think I ever
No.
would either. You scare the shit out of
No.
me.
I have one.
You do?
Come see me.
No, we're not doing
I
that.
do.
I'll let you do that.
Bailey bought it for me as kind of like a gag gift, but
I
don't
would
know. I think
go
it's cool.
I would go to like palm readers. I would
Uh-huh.
probably maybe be hypnotized
See, I don't
because
really wanna do that.
I think I like a lot of that stuff, but for some reason Ouija
The
boards
Ouija board.
scare the hell out of me.
Have you ever been to a palm reader or anything like that?
No, I tried to go when I was in Sedona, but she was booked up and I didn't feel like waiting for like 2 hours or coming back. But I was willing to do it. I walked into the office and I was like, "Hey, I want a reading, blah, blah, blah.
And I want it now.
I want it right now."
Right now, not in 2 hours. I had my palm read in New Orleans. Can't remember what she said. All I remember about everything she said is that I am happier when I'm busy and something about eating bananas. I don't know.
Eating bananas. The
think it was-
happier when you're busy makes sense because you're always so busy and you just go,
Yeah.
go, go. And I sometimes like sit back, I'm like, how does she do that? Man, you're always on the move.
I sleep. I think the context of the bananas was something about I make better
Potassium.
decisions and when I'm on the go and just like grab a banana. I don't know.
It's like,
I don't know.
I'm so busy that I don't have a chance to sit down and eat a meal. So I'm just going to eat a banana because I can eat it while I'm walking to the next job.
That's probably it. And it comes with its own little holder. You can move and eat it. It's a healthy choice, right? That's me.
Goodness. But yeah, seances. So you would do that? Would you do that?
I don't know. I think the Ouija board thing, I think it's funny. I don't think that I would ever actually try to communicate with a dead person.
The thing that freaks me about that is there's rules. You have to shut it down a certain way when you're done playing with it, or else you'll be like cursed for life. I don't know.
If you subscribe to such thoughts, yes.
Yeah. And who am I to say? I don't know if it's true or not.
I don't know. I just get a kick out of stuff like that. I don't think that I'm actually going to talk to anyone.
I do get a kick out of it. I think it's fascinating. And I also think it's hilarious that a toy company is the one that invented the Ouija board. So
right.
How real could it actually be? Who knows?
Hey, listeners, if you have a Ouija board story, email us.
I'm sure there's a ton out there.
Yeah. Put Ouija board in the subject line.
Yes.
Please.
And speaking about seances,
Mhm.
she actually didn't she have a seance room?
At
It
the
was just
Winchester Mystery House. I have been in that room.
and
I got
wasn't it just a table with 4 chairs? Wasn't it like a small square?
it is
And then it had
small. It was small. I don't remember there being any furniture in there at all.
okay, so I
When
saw
we
a
went
picture.
Mhm.
I don't know if it was a real picture or not, but it was a very, very small table, probably about the size of the one that I have in my dining room. And it was a square and it was just 4 chairs, one on each
It's
side of the square. And then there's 3 doors to it, but 2 of the doors don't lead anywhere. There's like one way in and like one way out, but for some reason there's like 3 doors or something like that.
well, the lore is that she was trying to trick the spirits
Mhm.
so that they couldn't find her, and like she would sleep in a different room every night. But
Every
when
night.
it was about 5 years ago that I went on the tour of the Winchester Mystery House. I remember because you always go with a tour guide because you will get lost in this place.
I want to go.
Yeah, it's really cool. I would go again. But from what I remember, there was no furniture, I could be wrong, in the seance room, but it was small. And then all of us just stood there. We were all standing up, and then they closed the doors, and it was pretty dark. I think it was pitch dark for a moment. It's kind of creepy, but I didn't experience any.
That's what I was going to ask you.
No, I
Anytime
mean,
in that house, did you ever did it go from like you're hot and then all of a sudden you're ice cold, or did you feel weird, get weird vibes, anything?
weird vibes because the story and the lore around it and the beauty of the house and how odd it's like a labyrinth and this maze that made me feel odd, but I didn't experience like any like beings or anything like that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Let's see, they did find, I don't know when it was, but it was this room inside of the home after she passed. Some people bought it privately, and now it's you can go for tours there.
Mhm.
But there was a room discovered that was walled all the way around it, almost like trying
A
to trap
room in a
something.
room.
Yes, and they didn't even know the room existed. I don't know if they were doing repairs or remodeling, and they found a room behind a wall that was enclosed all around by walls. They just keep finding more stuff there.
Yeah.
Bizarre. I walked upstairs that just led to nothing. There was a wall,
Hmm.
and then there's a door on I think it's the second floor that just opens to the outside with no
That
stairs or anything.
it drops down like 30 feet or something just to the outside.
But along with it being like bizarre and weird, it's actually gorgeous. Like she spent a ton of money on all this Victorian detail, stained glass, beautiful rugs, trap doors, flowers and plants all around the grounds, gorgeous wallpaper, lace curtains, wood everywhere, wooden floors, wooden trim, moldings, very intricate carved
That,
moldings,
that came from her
drapes.
dad.
Mm-hmm.
That's why she
Yeah.
she was
Because her
super.
dad ended up being a carpenter, and she was like
Mhm.
very drawn into his work.
And then she actually, she would go hang out in his mill and watch him. In this mystery house, she had things that were Victorian, French, like from everywhere across the world, and
Right.
very intricate. And she was also interested in the Freemasons
I did hear
and
something about that, like
and
through
Rosicrucianism.
a French connection or something.
Yeah, something
Yeah,
like that.
talk about that. I don't know
And
much about
some
it.
people think, okay, so these, what do you call them? Fraternal orders. Women were not allowed in, but the Freemasons actually had while she was alive. And there's accounts that she was very interested in it and kind of studied some of it and the symbolism and all that. But I guess there was a woman's part of it that you could join, but it wasn't with the men. And rumor has it that she was a member of that. So that's why there's like,
Yeah, I heard a bit.
I guess on some of the gates or something that go into the mansion, or like in some of the stained glass, there's like symbols and some like quotes and stuff from, I think it was Shakespeare, from some of his famous plays and stuff like that. But that's why a lot of people lean into the fact that she was part of the Freemasons in some way.
Mhm. And the secretive and strange parts of the home lend itself to being part of that.
And then you get into
the
number 13. She had
She did have a fascination with the number 13.
With 13, yeah. So there was, let's see, I wrote it down somewhere here.
I have a picture. I'll put up some pictures that I took of the house, but there were a couple of windows that had spider webs.
Mm-hmm.
And you can count 13 dots in the spider webs or 13 panes of the spider webs.
Yeah.
And different staircases had 13 stairs.
One of the staircases are in 13s. So there's 13 bathrooms. A lot of the rooms had 13 ceiling panels. And like you were talking about, a lot of the windows had 13 panes. So yeah. And then all the stairs, like not all of them, but a ton of them were in sections of 13. So who knows what that's about? But that's a famous number. So I don't know. Could be something.
It could be something. I wonder if the number 13 has anything to do with the Masons.
Probably.
Could be. I don't know. There is a plaque outside. It says the Winchester House, built by Sarah Winchester, widow of rifle manufacturer William Winchester. It says this unique structure includes many outstanding elements of Victorian architecture and fine craftsmanship. Construction began in 1884 and continued without interruption until Mrs. Winchester's death in 1922. The continual building and remodeling created 160-room house covering 6 acres, and it is a California historical landmark. And there's another plaque that also says that is in the National Register of Historical Places by the U.S. Department of Interior, and of course, also a San Jose landmark by the Department of Parks and Rec.
Yeah, it was designated a California historical landmark in 1974, the year
1974.
I was born.
Yes, it's a good year.
I was born in the marking of the landmark of the Winchester Mystery Hotel, or not hotel. Maybe that's why
Mansion.
I'm so weird.
The Mystery Mansion. I always had called it the Winchester Mystery Mansion.
I did too.
And I think a lot of people call it that, but it's actually Winchester Mystery House.
House. That's what it's.
It is
yes.
A Winchester logistical puzzle, I think.
I have
It's
got
just
to go
bizarre.
see it. The first time I ever heard about it, it was, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. And I was like, what? I've got to visit this place. And then you told me that you went when you did. I was like, come on.
Yes, I heard about it from another podcast called Stuff You Should Know. It is one of my favorite podcasts. Do you ever listen to that one?
I have listened to it. Yes, it's great.
It was really good. But I heard about it and I was intrigued. I was like, I got to go see it. The more oddities about the house, there is a skylight, guess you could call it that. Basically, it's in the floor.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
heard
like
about
windows
that.
in the floor, but then it's got columns all around it. So different theories. Some people try to debunk that she was trying to scare away or house all these spirits. But why else would she have trap doors and doors that open to nothing and stairways that lead to a wall?
Mm-hmm. I heard another thing about the windows, like in the ground. Another theory was it was a lighting issue. So she wanted light to come from the story above it to light that room. So who knows?
That could explain that. What about the doors that open to nothing and
To a
staircases
brick
that lead
wall.
to a wall? Yeah, there were doors you'd open it and it was just a brick wall.
So a lot of those theories are too, because we haven't talked about the earthquake yet.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about that. 1906.
So is that where it was?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, I got it right here. So another theory is that a lot of these oddities in the house were likely there because of this 1906 earthquake, because it severely damaged the home. And then so evidence suggests that they were once connected to maybe a porch or something, but they crumbled during the earthquake and she just never refurbished it. So then,
that could make sense.
And then other structures were later removed to do, later renovations. And then the odd angles and low ceilings, maybe it was just, they even said, because she had really bad arthritis. So maybe it had to do with some of that. So who knows? And there's no blueprints ever.
I think she was making it up as they
As she
were
went.
building it.
Yeah.
Now let's do this.
And there
Now
was
let's do that.
changing it. This kind of reminds me of the H.H. Holmes, the murder ranch, or the murder hotel. She switched crews constantly, and there was no blueprints. So nobody knew what they were working on for very long. And then they'd go to something else. And it's like, I mean, hers wasn't intentional. You know what I mean? Because H.H. Holmes was a horrible, horrible God. But she was just whimsical. She was just like,
Although she could have been intentional if she really believed that the medium,
yeah,
but it wasn't nefarious.
God, no.
No. And them not having any blueprints is probably why they keep discovering more
Yeah.
rooms.
And then it's known that a bunch of the rooms, she had them built, and then she decided she didn't like it. She'd have it rebuilt like over and over and over. So some rooms were rebuilt like over 10 times. She'd be like, oh, well, no, I want to do this instead. Rip it down, start over, and do this.
So that begs the question, did she believe the medium, and was she trying to confuse or appease or capture some of those spirits? Or was this a passion art project for her? Or was it compulsive behavior?
I think it's two of the latter.
You think so?
Mhm.
It was a passion project, and
I
just
think it
the
was
compulsions.
passion to keep her busy. Like, I can't stop. I got to stay busy, redo this room, do this. But she was also super into architecture. So, I wonder what this would look like. And then do it. And well, no, that doesn't really work. Let's do it different. And then,
Well, and to your previous point about the passion project and she wanted to stay busy, she was very lonely, right? She lost her
Mhm.
entire family. And from what
doesn't have to work.
from what I read, she had tons of employees that were constantly working on the grounds, working on the construction, working in the house,
Yeah, it was different crews 24/7.
helping around in the house, cooking, preparing, doing all these things. And she paid them very well and she treated them very well.
She was
So
very
it's
generous.
She's very generous. So it's almost as if that became her family.
Mhm.
She was surrounding herself with these people and she just had to keep things moving, keep things going all the time. And then, add the compulsion component in that. Again, I am not here to diagnose anyone, especially somebody I haven't met. This is for education and entertainment purposes only. But I think it would be a good time to kind of go into a conversation about OCD.
Absolutely. You know what I forgot to mention
What's
was
that?
the actual name that she named it, the Yanada
Oh,
Via.
what does that mean?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
But the name, you know how people used to name their mansions and their homes and their homestead or whatever?
Yes.
It's actually called the Yanada Via.
Yanada Via.
And I didn't look up what that means. And I should already know because I should know more Spanish than I actually do. I know what Via.
How do you
I know
spell it?
I know what Via means, but Yanada,
How do you spell it?
LLANADA, Lanada. I think it was named after another place that she knew or lived at before.
This is
Aramia?
okay. Here it is. Llanada is a Spanish noun that translates to plain or flatland in English.
Okay. The Flatland Via?
Flatland Via.
Okay.
When you're talking about naming houses, it makes me think of Outlander and Lollybrock. Oh, I love that movie or that show. Okay. Houdini stopped
Yes.
there at one point. This was after her death. I guess he was trying to debunk kind of mediums and seances and things like that. I thought that was interesting. There were no reports that came out of it. And also Zach, what's his name? Zach
Baggins?
Yeah. From Ghost Hunters has stayed there. He didn't report anything, I don't think, on it. There was a movie that came out in 2018 and the title is Winchester, the House That Ghosts Built. And it starred Helen Mirren. And I want to watch it.
I love her.
I do too. She is awesome. So I want to check that out. So Winchester, the House That Ghosts Built. And it doesn't follow the storyline exactly from what I understand. It does in the beginning, but then when she moves, there's an employee that works for Winchester, and he's trying to show that she is not in the frame of mind, that she has mental issues going on, to try to cut her out of the Winchester company, something like that. So it takes a different storyline.
Yeah, that's totally different, because everything that I've looked up, all of her family, everybody that ever worked for her never mentioned anything that like that she was not mentally there. Nobody ever said that. Everybody only had good things to say about her. She was kind, generous, she was awesome, and everybody missed her.
And her employees didn't say anything negative, even after she passed away.
They all loved her.
Right.
When they actually saved her in that earthquake. She was buried under rubble.
Yeah, she was in the Daisy room.
That was her favorite. That was her favorite room. And she was buried under a bunch of rubble. And she was pretty old then. I think she was like
in her 70s.
In her 70s.
Yeah.
And she was buried under all this rubble, and her workers helped pull her out and everything. I mean, that says a lot.
It says a lot. And I think after the earthquake, she decided to go wide with the house instead of up, because I think it was initially like 7 stories.
It was like
high.
7. Yeah. And what is it now? Like 4?
4, I believe so.
Yeah.
So that could be why a lot of the strange, puzzling rooms and doorways, and maybe it's because of the earthquake and the rebuilding. I don't know, but it's
and they also say that some of it, now this is just lore, but they also say that some of it could be after her death and the new owners took over, and everybody was so interested in it and all the weird stuff about it, they added to it.
Trying to capitalize on
the weirdness and the mystery.
Yeah.
So that could be some of it.
I could see that.
And then also, President, she didn't like having visitors.
Yeah, she was
because she was a recluse, and she always wore black, even way after her husband died. Like, she was still in mourning. But Theodore Roosevelt wanted to visit, and she locked the gates. She didn't let the president in.
Wow.
Well, he was a gun enthusiast. So Winchester and everything makes sense. He heard about this place, and he really wanted to go there, and he showed up, him and all his men and everything, and she had locked the gates, didn't let him in. Dang. I thought that was that's damn.
Yeah, she really didn't like visitors. So in the late 1800s, beliefs in spirits were culturally accepted, as we talked about, and not necessarily linked to mental illness. So that perspective kind of gives caution when talking about like OCD or psychosis or anything like that, based just on her spiritual beliefs. However, as we talked about that nonstop building, there was definitely some compulsive behavior. So I just thought it'd be interesting to talk about OCD.
For sure.
And of course, I'm not diagnosing anyone. I am not offering medical advice. This is for education and entertainment purposes only. But OCD involves unwanted intrusive thoughts, which are called obsessions, and repetitive behaviors, which are compulsions. I should say and or, because you can have OCD with one or the other, like just the intrusive thoughts without the actions.
Without doing.
And the reason.
Yeah, I think I have a little bit of that. I find myself,
tell me about it.
The old, don't step on a crack or you break your mother's back. When I'm walking across the shop at work, I find myself stepping over all the cracks in the shop because I don't want to step on the crack. And I'm like, you're being ridiculous. And then on purpose, I'll step on it to like stop because I realize that I'm doing it. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. Just step on the crack. But I would pace my steps, like take smaller steps or bigger steps so that I would walk over it. And now I'm just like, I catch myself doing it and I'm like, that's a myth. You can step on a crack. It's fine. But it gets in my head and I actually think about it. And I'm like, I think I have a little bit of OCD. I don't know what's up.
Well, that's interesting. So first of all, that superstitious type thinking is very common in OCD. And then secondly, I think all of us have characteristics that don't necessarily meet diagnostic criteria. So a lot of people say, oh, I'm so OCD, and, lay out some types of behaviors and things. But if it's not taking up like a lot of your time, and if it's not causing disruption in work or relationships or things like that. It's just kind of part of your personality, which is okay.
It's like
Right?
A-type personality or something like that,
hmm
which I
Yeah.
think is me because it doesn't take up any of my time. I just find myself like, I'll go outside before I go to work in the backyard and like take the trash out. And then I walk in and I lock the doors and then I go get my keys and my wallet to go to work. I'll have to go double check the back door. I was
hmm
like, I know I locked it, but I have to double
Yeah.
check it.
And
And
then,
I'm
so
like,
you double check it. So you check it twice.
but it's
But if
not
you
like I
have
don't
to
have to
check
like
it,
do it 7 times. You know what I mean? I don't have to do
right,
that.
7 times and then go to bed and get back up and recheck it 7 times and then go
I've
back to bed
I've
and then
gotten
maybe get up.
I've double checked it before and
hmm
then went to bed and then got out of bed and go, I think I double checked it, but maybe it's just lack of memory or something. But I'll go
Well, I think,
check it again just to
yeah.
make sure. But
hmm
it's not like OCD. It's just like my personality. I've got, yeah, I have to make sure before I can relax.
And I think a lot of people have, again, traits that fall under different categories. Like you could have ADHD type symptoms, but not meet ADHD criteria. We all
Yeah,
have some
for
of those
sure.
symptoms.
Yep.
Again, with OCD, sometimes I'll have Jake go check to make sure I unplugged my flat iron when I checked it twice and I'm already at work. And I'm like, but am I sure that it's not?
That is my big thing. I always check April's flat iron.
Uh-huh.
And she's called me before she knows I've gone left for work yet. She's like, can you make sure I turn off my flat iron? I was like, I already did. Because I
Yes.
check that
Yes.
stuff all the time.
Yes. So I wanted to share I think I had in the PDM, there was an example of an illustration of somebody with OCD. So this is a 33-year-old man seeks therapy after being fired for delays in completing work and assignments. He's very anxious about his future and pessimistic about not only finding another job, but also his marriage. His wife is becoming less and less tolerant of what she calls his manias. When asked about these, he says, nothing really serious. I think many people should behave like I do. There are too many contaminants outside, so I take particular care of my hands and clothes. I wash my hands up to 30 times a day and clean my desk and computer quite often with special products to remove the dust and to kill the germs. I know this is time consuming, but it is necessary to prevent contamination and disease.
30
So-
times a day.
But you could see, like, somebody that did that, they could, the skin on their hands could start breaking down, right? I mean, this is causing impairment in his marriage, in his job. It's taking up a lot of time. So those are the kinds of things that we're looking for when diagnosing and treating.
Yeah, so that's the other side of what we were just talking about. That's like severe. That is OCD, not just like habits.
Habits, right. Now, people will say, oh, I'm so OCD because I have to, have all my socks completely aligned in my sock drawer. So there's a difference in OCD and OCPD. So OCPD is obsessive compulsive personality disorder. So it is characterized by a pervasive pattern of perfectionism and rigidity. And this is across like all areas in life. So this is egocentric. And what that means is it aligns with the person's values and wants and desires. With OCD, the intrusive thoughts and compulsions are ego dystonic. That means that they don't align with, they can kind of reality check and realize this is irrational. It's kind of funny that the illustration in here, he said, I think more people should behave like I do, because most of the time people with OCD, they realize that it's overboard, but they have to do the compulsion to relieve the stress and anxiety. And it's like immediate. It's like if they feel that anxiety, they do the compulsion immediately to cut it off. And the interesting thing about it is that just then feeds into, yes, when I do that thing, it relieves my stress. So I'm going to keep doing it. So it kind of builds up momentum. And so what you were saying about you stepped on the crack on purpose, that is kind of what you want to do with somebody with OCD. And if you're out there and you're a listener and you have OCD, don't do this on your own. Do it with a licensed professional. But you do the exposure, right? You become uncomfortable. You withhold doing. So with a compulsion, you're either doing something or not doing something, right? You're either washing the hands or not stepping on the crack. So you're either doing something or avoiding something. And so with exposure therapy, with ERP, it's exposure and response prevention. You're withholding the act or not doing the act so that the person feels anxious.
Trying to make it feel like it's okay to feel anxious. I was just going to say another thing at work that I do that I can't actually do any work if I walk on and my desk is full with papers, like people putting papers or work orders on my desk and they're all scattered. Like I cannot go to work until I organize each thing and write it down. I have all the RO numbers. I have all the stuff that I need, and then I can clean my desk and it's nice and clean. Then I can go to work. If they're all like out of order and just laid on there, I'm a mess. I am like, I can't go to work yet. I have to clean all this up. I have to organize it.
And do you find you're that way at home at all with anything at home?
What's weird? Rarely at home. It's always at work.
It's just at
like
work.
I am so organized at work. Like if I open one of my drawers and I can tell if somebody got in my drawer, if like a pen is not where it's supposed to be, or if something's not exactly where I keep it, I can tell that somebody's been rooting around in my stuff. But at home, I'm way more lax. I'm like, that's fine.
Well, what you have to do when you're assessing for OCD is oftentimes the person doesn't even realize the reason. So because they do the compulsion so fast to alleviate the stress that they're not even aware. So say somebody will not make a left turn. They only make right turns. They refuse to make a left turn.
I've heard of that.
They may not even realize it because they've done it for so long. And the act comes so fast after the thought that they haven't tried to make a left turn to see kind of what is the underlying anxiety. What do you really think will happen? Are you going to hurt somebody? Are you going to be hurt? Like, what is the underlying cause? And kind of trying to dig out what the anxiety component is of it. What you do is talk to the patient about what are obsessions and what are compulsions. So the obsessions, again, unwelcome and distressing ideas, thoughts, images, or impulses that repeatedly enter your mind. They may seem to occur against your will. So that's that ego dystonic we were talking about, against their will. They may be repugnant to you. You may recognize them as senseless. That's that insight, right? They can reality check and say, this is not real, but I have to do the thing.
Can I just say something? Repugnant? Yeah. That is a word. I mean, that like, I find you repugnant.
It is. And it really explains some people, they don't realize that they have OCD and they're having these thoughts in their head and it could be violent. It could be they're having a conversation at work with a coworker and they're thinking, I could push you out the window right now. And then they think, why would I think that? I don't want to push them out the window, or I could just hit her with this notebook. Or maybe they have a boss and they think like sexual thoughts come into their mind or violent thoughts, and they are not attracted to this person or they don't want to hurt this person. So they kind of get scared of their own thoughts because they're not aligning with, and we've all had those somewhat. If you're standing on a bridge or really high up, you think I could just jump off. You don't want to, but you think you could. Or you're chopping vegetables with a knife and you think I could just chop my finger off. No, I don't want to chop my finger off. So it's those kind of your brain kind of worst case scenario, like that could happen. Our brain does that to us, but it's just constant. And I think a lot of times just explaining that to somebody that's newly diagnosed with OCD really helps alleviate some of the distress that they have, that, oh, this is my brain. These are the thoughts, but it doesn't make it real. It's not what I want.
Yeah.
And it's a very stubborn diagnosis. Sometimes those thoughts never completely go away, but people are able to dismiss them easier. I think of them like a soap bubble that you can kind of pop. It's like, oh, there's that silly thought. I'm going to pop it.
That's a good analogy. Yeah.
It's just like,
I mean, I know I'm guilty of it. I'm sure you're guilty of it. I'm sure everybody's guilty of it. But those weird thoughts that you have sometimes, and it's just like, why the hell did I just think that? And then you dismiss them and you're like, whoa, that was weird.
That was weird. And just to understand that that's normal and everyone has thoughts like that, not to the extent that get it with OCD, but just to recognize, oh, that's just a thought. And just because my brain thought it doesn't mean it's true. So compulsions, on the other hand, are behaviors or acts that the person feels driven to perform, although they may even realize that they're senseless or excessive. They try to resist it, but sometimes they just can't, or it's very difficult, right? I can't go wash my hands. I don't want to go wash. I'm not going to. I have to. That they try to resist, but they just can't. And they can experience that the anxiety doesn't diminish until they complete whatever the behavior is. And some kind of adjacent diagnosis to OCD are trichotillomania, which is hair pulling. It could be in the scalp, it could be eyebrows,
is that when people
eyelashes.
sit there and like twist their hair and
they'll pull it out? They'll get bald spots. Or their eyelashes, they'll pull out eyelashes or eyebrows. And then skin excoriation is another one, skin picking, and it can be very painful. So examples, again, of compulsions is repeatedly checking appliances, water faucets, the lock on the front door. But there are some that are not observable. They're mental acts, like silently checking or having to recite a phrase or counting. That's one that happens a lot, is people will count things. So in the assessment, we see how much time is involved with the thoughts and the compulsions, how much it interferes with their daily life, work, relationships, social life, the distress that's associated with them. Different types of symptoms could be aggressive obsessions, fear that you're going to harm yourself or somebody else, blurting out obscenities or insults, like they're scared of to go into social situations. They're scared that they're going to just start cussing or just yelling at people.
Is that like Tourette's?
Tourette's is actually, when they do it, it's like a tick, a verbal tick.
Yeah.
But this is like the fear of,
you're just going to lose
oh my
it.
God, I'm going to drop an F-bomb. I know it's going to come out kind of thing. Fear that you'll steal things, fear that you hit somebody in a car. Some people will be so scared that they've hit somebody. Nothing will have happened. They're like, I'm sure when I went to the store, I probably hit somebody. They're probably hurt. I mean, it could be very, very bothersome.
Maybe the point where they actually stop and go look at their car, make sure there's not a dent or someone stuck in the grill.
Right.
I mean, goodness. Wow.
Then there's contamination obsessions, worried about germs in the environment, concern about illness for themselves or others around them, sexual obsessions like pervasive sexual thoughts, fear that they're going to do something inappropriate sexually. They don't want to. And then they're scared to seek out help because they have a lot of shame and guilt.
You don't want to admit it.
Right. Those thoughts will pop into their head and it's not something that they want to do, but they feel so bad that they're thinking those things, that they feel bad about themselves.
They probably don't want to bring it up. Like, how do you bring that up? Hey, I had this weird thought the other day.
Right. Yes, exactly. But do seek out help because there is treatment for it. And it's something that happens and it doesn't mean anything negative about the person that's thinking it. There can be religious obsessions concerned with blasphemy or sacrilege, symmetry or exactness. So things have to be, aligned up. Everything has to be like lateral or perpendicular or, whatever the thing is.
Did mom ever tell you about, she has this story about me that she likes to tell people all the time. Whenever she would make me clean my room, whenever we were in grade school, she'd tell me, Steven, you need to clean your room. Like, okay. So I'd start cleaning my room and there'd be clothes and stuff everywhere. And that's what she wanted me to clean up. She'd come in and check on me 2 hours later, room still absolute wreck. But my shelf, everything was lined up perfect. It was all in a straight line. And that's all I did. I'm guilty of that too.
Right.
I got some problems, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. So were you not able to go to sleep at night unless all those cars and everything were in the exact right spot?
No, I could. But whenever I was told to clean my room, that's where I would start.
That's what you did. Yeah.
Lining everything up perfectly, like you said, perpendicular, or they had to be in the right angle. Yeah.
Yes. So you enjoy doing that. You like doing that.
Yeah.
And it was
aligned
looking with what your desire and your values, and it wasn't causing you distress when it wasn't lined up.
Yeah.
So that's my point of it.
If
it was to the point where you could not go to sleep, or you could not leave to go to school unless they were all lined up. Then we're going to start digging deeper, right?
There you go.
Does
So
that
it
make
was
sense?
just, yeah. So it was, to your point, now I understand a little bit more that it's not a problem. It's just my personality. It's like, I like everything lined up like perfect. Even if
Yeah.
it's off center, everything next to it has to be equally off center. Just
And that's only at work now?
not only at work, I do it here too. Like on before we started recording, I have to have my phone perfectly right here. I have to have this perfectly right here. This has to be perfect.
So
Everything's
those
square.
that may align more with the OCPD, right? Where it's like,
Yeah.
I like things in order and I don't find distress in that. That's how I like them. And I'm kind of rigid in that. And I'm not diagnosing you either, but I'm just trying to
One of these days I'm
use
going to have
that
you
as an
diagnose it.
example. Oh, no, you don't want that.
Maybe I don't want that.
You're so funny. There's definitely hope and treatment for OCD and OCPD. So in OCD, the evidence shows that it's cognitive behavioral therapy with that exposure and response prevention. And that is first line. That is the most effective. SSRIs, which are medications that we often use for depression and or anxiety, can also be somewhat effective. Let's talk about the therapy first. Treatment approaches for OCD, studies show that CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy. So this is a type of therapy that you go like twice a week for OCD, it's about 12 weeks. And the CBT specific therapy is the exposure and response prevention, which is ERP. So this is, you work with a therapist, usually takes 10 to 12 weeks to have benefit for OCD. And they are going to expose you to the anxiety without doing the compulsion. Then other type treatment is an SSRI, which that's a serotonin reuptake inhibitor. So the neurons in the brain, they deliver chemicals between each other through the axon. So when serotonin leaves, it's in that space for a little bit available for use. And then the other one reuptakes it. So it's now out of the space and unavailable. It just lets that serotonin hang out longer. It doesn't produce more serotonin. So you have more of it available in your brain. For some reason, this works with OCD sometimes with some people, which is interesting because they haven't really found the correlation of serotonin at what the impact is on OCD, but it can be helpful. But the best is the CBT ERP we talked about. For OCPD, it's therapy. It's not medication. Sometimes OCD and OCPD can co-occur. It's not super common, but it can.
That actually makes sense to me.
Let's talk more about the exposure and response prevention, the ERP therapy. So it's a structured behavioral therapy and the most effective evidence-based psychotherapy for OCD. But it has to be delivered by experienced practitioners. So if anyone out there has OCD, do not do this on your own. It's not safe. Do it with a therapist. So it involves two components. One is exposure, so gradual, systematic confrontation with the feared stimuli or situation. If somebody has like a contamination fear, maybe they have to hold a dirty Kleenex or something for so long just to feel the anxiety.
Slowly break it down and accept the anxiety about it.
And then the second part is response prevention. So not doing the thing, not washing your hands, holding the Kleenex and not washing the hands.
That's got to be hard.
Sure.
If you're like, oh my God, I touched this, I have to go wash my hands. But then you have to do hold something dirty on purpose. And then you're not allowed to wash your hands. That's got to be rough.
We're interrupting that circuit of the thought, the compulsion happens so fast. So you have to have that delay in there. At least delay washing the hands for 30 minutes or something.
So I might be talking out of line here, but does that have anything? This is a question for you. Does that have anything to do with your brain, the paths that it takes? And it's basically changing the way that you think. It's changing the synapse in your thinking process.
We didn't used to think that we could change our brain, but we absolutely
You can retrain. Absolutely.
Yeah, neuroplasticity, it's a real thing.
It makes total sense to me.
And with the medications, the SSRIs usually takes higher doses than what you would use for depression. SSRI examples are Prozac, which is fluoxetine, citalopram, which is Celexa, Zoloft, which is sertraline, Luvox, which is fluvoxamine. That one I use for OCD. But it definitely takes higher doses than you would normally use just because it's such a stubborn illness. TMS is also an emerging treatment for OCD. So TMS is a transcranial magnetic stimulation, and I have used this for patients successfully with OCD. So when we give medications, we are modulating the neurotransmitters in the brain, like serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, all of those. With TMS, you are using a magnetic stimulation to modulate the electrical component of the brain. So it's not invasive. It's like a helmet that goes over. You target specific area of the brain. You can either excite it or calm it. And then you do some of that exposure during the TMS, and it fires those neurons. So you rewire new neural pathways. So as you were talking about, it's rerouting your thoughts, because your brain is like a computer, right?
Yeah.
It's running these programs, and it's like, okay,
And then it
we're
gets
going to reroute that.
Yeah, from what I understand, those become a habit, and then it just takes the same route every time, and that becomes a habit. But you can reroute them and
Absolutely
change it.
And it's a beautiful thing.
That's awesome.
Definitely
something-
helping treatment. Is there anything that we left out that you noticed?
I don't think there's anything that we left out, but I wanted to kind of end her legacy with a little outro.
Yes, let's do it.
So by 1922, Sarah Winchester, she was in her early 80s and her health was pretty fragile. She had been suffering majorly from arthritis for years, which, she used to like to play piano. She couldn't do that anymore. And her hands and her feet became like, misshapen and, crooked and everything.
I think she had rheumatoid arthritis, which is really, really painful.
And then a lot of people, and then she actually lost almost all of her teeth. She didn't have any teeth. So I think she wore the gloves and stuff all the time to hide she was embarrassed about her hands. She wore the veil. A lot of people said she wore a veil, and that was to like hide the fact that she didn't have a lot of teeth. And she was very self-conscious. So it's really sad. And then they thought that, that the reason that she wore the gloves and veil and everything was just because she was witchy and weird. No, she was just self-conscious. So she ended up dying September 5th, 1922 in her sleep. She was 83 years old. And we mentioned, I believe she died was it the Daisy room? It was like her favorite room in the house. She passed away peacefully in that house. And by the time of her death, she had spent at that time $5 million on just the construction of the house. And that's in 1922 dollars. So who knows what that would be today? I didn't look it up. But fun fact about it is, in one room, don't know what room it was, but there was a nail, an undriven nail in a piece of wood. Because when construction ended and waiting for a hammer, I love the way they put this. There was a single undriven nail in a piece of wood waiting for the hammer that would never come. They preserved that to this day. That nail is still there. It was started and it was never driven in, and it's still there today. I don't know what room it's in.
I gotta go see that nail. I
know.
didn't see the nail.
Yeah, but like we were talking about, it's still open. You can take tours of it. So ghost tours were created and all that. And they leaned into all that ghost stuff and everything real hard. They know where the seance room was. Like you said, you went there. Tours started coming by the thousands and then by the millions. House is a legend to this day. And so she left no memoir. She had no diary. The public, after her passing, could paint whatever picture they ever wanted to about her and make it to where, kind of a myth. So we don't know the real story. We don't know exactly. She wasn't diagnosed with anything, but there was probably something there, like you were talking about. But, it's just, we'll never know exactly who she was and what made her do all this stuff. But, it made her kind of strange, mysterious, but it also made her very remarkable. And it transcends a ghost story and grief. And she wasn't a mad woman. We don't know if she was haunted by literal ghosts, But what we do know is she was a woman of extraordinary intelligence. She had to take in a lot of grief. She had vast resources and a vision that she just would not let go for 4 decades building this house. And if there are any ghosts in the house, they're the echo of a woman who refuses to be still and refuses to be quiet and refuses to stop.
I admire her. I love that she was mysterious. I have dreams often about houses and discovering like rooms that I didn't know were there. I have those dreams all the time.
It was earlier, probably halfway through our recording. You were in the middle of telling something, and I was going to tell you the exact same thing. I have those dreams constantly, and they are so vivid. I wake up and almost think that they were real.
Yes.
Like underground hidden tunnels that I find in my dreams and stuff. And I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. That's so crazy that you have them too.
I do. I've had them my whole life. And
Me too.
I'll discover like a secret room and it'll be full of like all this furniture. And I'm like, I'm giddy. I'm excited when I find it.
I am too. I'm never scared. I think it's the coolest thing.
I think maybe it's representing like discovering a part of yourself.
That is
I don't know.
Crazy that you brought that up. I'm glad you did because I would have forgot to bring it back up because when you were talking, I wanted to bring it up and I was like, and I forgot about it.
And I love old houses. Like the house,
Me too.
My house was built in 1912.
Sweet.
And I love creaky wood floors and moldings and all of those things.
I love it.
So I admire this woman. I respect her. I think she's pretty cool.
That is cool. I want to come see you. I want to see your house.
Come see me. Come meet my house.
Yeah. I'll be like, hey, Sarah, Jake, what's up? I want to meet the house.
Maybe we'll discover a secret room while you're here.
That would be so cool.
Thank you guys so much for listening. It's been fun. If you have any ideas for topics in the future, please email me at psychloresarah@gmail.com. If you want to talk to Steve, it's psychloressteve@gmail.com. Until then, stay curious and
stay psyched.